Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the medium in the middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Hello, everybody. Hello, middlers. Welcome back to the Medium in the Middle podcast, or welcome. If you are new here, my name is Stephanie. I am the medium in the middle, and this is episode 158. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the power of yes and no, the power of learning your yes and no, and then intuitively listening to that yes and no. And this was inspired from a friend of mine actually commenting on how she really looked up to how I said no so easily in life. And it just had me reflect on something that actually took me a lot of time to get to. So I want to share that with you today because I find in spirituality, you really have to trust your yes and your no. And this isn't going to be an episode of like, if it isn't a hell yes, it's a no. This is more about learning your body's yes, learning your body's no, and then being able to tell the difference in everyday situations, learning to listen to your intuition, because I feel like we're only trying to pay attention when it's for big ticket items, but small ticket items are where the magic happens. So that is coming for you this week, but I do have some announcements for you. The March level 1 Reiki training has sold out, so I've officially opened the April training, and it is going to be the last weekend in April, April 29th and 30th. So if you have been waiting for a Reiki level 1, that will be the next one that has available spots. There will be another level 2 coming in March. So if you've been waiting for a level 2, there will be another one in March that will be opening up very shortly. And the other very exciting announcement is I have a new course to release to you guys. This past weekend, I was teaching Reiki level 2 for the first time this year, and I got asked a lot of really good questions, and I found myself repeating, this is kind of an advanced technique, but well, this is a lot to teach you right now, but, well, I could answer that, but it's a little bit difficult because, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need an advanced course. And then I just had spirit screaming at me, yeah, duh, create an advanced course. And I thought about it all night. And then the next day, Monday, was my day off. And I literally jumped out of bed, ran to my computer, started, doing the outline, figuring out when I could do it, figuring out how I wanted to do it. And it's the fastest I've ever launched anything, probably from conception and download and the intuitive nudge to do it to like releasing it to the world. And it's already been so well received. I've had so many people sign up. So I am offering an advanced Reiki practitioner course. Yes, so exciting. It's going to be held live Saturday, March 18th from 1:30 to 3:30. Mountain Standard Time, but the replay will be available. So if you register and you can't make it live, everybody will get a copy. I just find there's such a gap in between level 2 and then working in Reiki or taking things further or using everything that I teach you in a level 2 weekend to its fullest potential. And so many tricks and tips that I've picked up over years of working full-time in Reiki that I want to share with other people. Like, nothing should be gatekeeped in this world, and it makes my sessions feel like I can do so much in 60 minutes, and I want everyone to feel like that. So if you are ready to elevate your Reiki experience, if you want to learn more, if you want to go a little bit more in depth, this is really good too if you are planning to do your master's in the future, or you're wanting more support, or you're wanting to be more confident. I have the full course description on my website, and I'll leave it linked down below, but I'm very excited to be offering this. I'm very inspired to be offering this, and I feel it's very, very needed. So it is required that you are a Reiki level 2 practitioner to take this course. You will need a good understanding of Reiki level 2 to come into this. So I recommend it about 3 to 6 months after your level 2 course. You can be any lineage of Reiki, so you don't necessarily have to be my student as long as you've taken a level 2. All the information is very much going to be blanketed over any type of Reiki that you're doing, but it's going to be how to elevate the experience, how to work more confidently, and a lot of tips and tricks that I've learned about working with energy. So very exciting. That'll be in March 18th, or you can grab the replay when you're ready. But that is my announcements for the week. And then this week's card pull, I pulled with you on live on Instagram, and I decided to use the Rebecca Campbell Work Your Light Oracle deck. I really like this deck, and I pulled the card Deep Replenishment, Retreat, Rest, and Be Held. Card description. The most selfless thing you can do is to fill up your own inner well. When we are running around half filled, we subconsciously look to things and people around us to give us the nourishment and nurturing that we so deeply crave. Nothing can grow in barren lands. You are no good to anyone if you are running on empty. The feminine is bountiful, fertile, and rich. Tend to your own well and watch the amount you have to give multiply. If your inner well isn't full, you will find yourself craving things from the outside world to fill it. This is our body's instinctive ways of reaching for the grounding and nurturing that we are not allowing ourselves. What nourishes you? What refuels your body? What nectar is for your soul? Ooh, I like that line. What brings you back to life? What is your secret medicine? What makes you feel abundant and fertile? Overspilling with life. It may be gardening, arranging flowers, getting a massage, using essential oils, snuggling up on the couch, hiking, sipping a good coffee, attending a women's circle, spontaneous bike rides, walking along the beach. What nourishes you is your medicine. What a good line. When you give yourself the medicine that you need to be nourished, you nourish all those around you, for there is more than enough to go around. Ooh, I really like that. And then the Work Your Light action is do something that deeply nourishes you today. I'll share what my things are that deeply nourish my energy and help me keep going. I make a coffee for myself every morning. I try to only buy coffee once a week on the weekends. But I've really mastered my at-home coffee, and my goal every morning is to drink it warm. So if I can drink my coffee hot, I am so happy. And then my second nourishing cup thing is CrossFit. My nooner CrossFit, noon to 1 p.m. That's my time. And it just makes me feel so good for the rest of the day. Even though I'm currently injured and not performing at my best, I still really find that it fuels me. My third thing that I will also add to this is I don't wake up with an alarm clock. I am self-employed and I don't have to be up early for anything most days, almost every day. So one of my definitions of success is waking up without an alarm clock every day. And I've accomplished that. I accomplished that last year. I naturally wake up between 8:30 and 9:30, and I sleep about 8 to 11 hours a night. I'm not even going to lie. I sleep a lot, but it's very, very important for me. I work 6 days a week. I work in energy. I need to have energy. So sleep and gym and coffee are the ways that I nourish my cup. How are yours? And if you haven't done yours today, get to it. So I first want to start off with the story that inspired this week's episode. And then I want to jump into where the inspiration came from there. So if you don't know, I host or MC a weekly dinner show in Banff at a restaurant. So part of my job is I welcome everybody to the show. I warm up the crowd. I introduce the belly dancer. Then we do this big Greek dance all around the restaurant. We smash plates. We yell Opa. I say thank you and good night. And then I sit at the bar and I eat food. Part of my deal is that I get a meal. So this was the last week when I was doing the show. Sometimes after the show, some of my friends will come meet me on the bar because they know I'm there every week, same time, same place. So if they want Greek food or if they want to have a drink, they'll come meet me. So I'm sitting on the bar after the show, eating my food with my two friends who had joined me. And the manager of the restaurant came over to me, and there were some groups that came in after the show, so they missed the entire show. And he came over to me and he said, "Hey, Steph, there's a birthday at one of the tables that came in later after the show. They kind of want to do something for them. They want to embarrass him. They want to make a big scene. Do you mind getting on the mic and maybe saying happy birthday and maybe pouring ouzo?" And I was eating my dinner and I just looked at him and I was like, "No." And then I kept eating. He's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I thought you'd say no." I was like, "Why don't you do it?" I was like, "But I went and grabbed the microphone." And he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do it." And I was like, "Just go do it. They asked you." And just to explain myself so that no one thinks I'm just being rude, I was number one in the middle of eating my dinner. So, like, food full of Greek food, garlic, onions, and my meal was half done. Number two, the show had ended about an hour prior to this. And if I turned on the mic to say happy birthday to this one table, it would have disrupted the whole restaurant, which was still pretty full. And from past experience, when we do something, you can't just do it for one table. So, for example, if I were to grab the mic and I'm like, oh, I have a birthday at this table and I'm gonna, we're all gonna sing to him or we're gonna do whatever, embarrass him. Then it's like, oh, we have a birthday over here. And then you got to go over to that table. And oh, we're having an anniversary over here. And then you got to go over to that table. Oh, and this is his birthday down here. And then you got to go over to that table. So it's never just one table. And to be honest, I was in the middle of eating. I had garlic breath really bad. And I just wasn't going to pick up the microphone and interrupt the entire restaurant for one person's birthday because someone wanted a little attention and they missed the show. If you want that, come for the show. So anyways, he walked away. He's like, oh, maybe I'll do it. And we're trying to hype him up so that he just does it. And my friend then turned to me and she just said, I love how easily you say no. And I was like, what? She's like, you didn't even skip a beat when he asked you that. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm eating. And she was like, yeah, I just always think like I would have said yes. And I was like, but I'm eating. I'm like, and I smell like onions. And she was like, no, it just really always impresses me how easily you say no. And then I was thinking about it, and it wasn't always this easy. So I wanted to talk about that because I feel like intuition had a big part of this. And it might just sound like I'm being rude and saying no, but there was a lot of decisions that went into why I said no to that and why I say no to a lot of things or yes to a lot of things that come into my life. So I know I've said before, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And I've also learned that not everybody operates that way. I think it's something about human design, enneagrams, I don't even know, but I've learned that not everybody has a hell yes in their body. And that isn't always the case if it's not a hell yes, if it's a no. I find that doesn't blanket every single yes no decision. And I will admit that my pendulum has swung in kind of extreme situations where I'm like, I say no too much. I need to say yes to everything. And then I realize I'm saying yes to everything. I need to start saying no to things. And it's about finding a happy medium because my instinct used to say yes to everything. And then that wasn't serving me. So then I started to say no to everything to the point where a no would come out of my mouth so fast and easy. I was just like, oh, I guess I said no. Now it's to the point where it's like, Steph, think about this. Do you want to do it or do you not? Don't just say no. This is a really big thing for me personally in my schedule. I am trying not to say like I'm busy or I can't. I'm always like, let me actually look. Like, do I work till 6 and have a gap till 7:30 and maybe I can meet you for a drink? Do I have a Reiki course that weekend? Can I still come out for, dinner but not drink? So I'm trying to be more accommodating. But I find that you have to find your yes and find your no. And for me, there's also maybe. For everybody, there's also maybe. But if it's a maybe, that means kind of pause for now. So if I'm not feeling a no and I'm not feeling a yes, then that's like pause for now. Let me come back to this. So a few things that have really helped me in finding my yes and finding my no intuitively is number one, what's the first and fastest thing that comes out of your mind or your mouth? So in that case, with my mouth full of food, I said no before I even fully thought. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess, yeah, no, I'm not doing it actually. But if you instinctually say yes or if you instinctually say no, I find sometimes I agree to things and I was like, why in the hell did I say yes to that? But then when I go and I attend, it all makes sense. So whatever happens fast before you can think, if you're like, yeah, no, that usually is an intuitive hit. Another thing that I really recommend if you're trying to work on your yes and your no is to pay attention to how things feel in your body. Is there a physical sensation that happens when you want to say yes to things and when you want to say no to things? This can also be emotional if anything like emotionally happens. For example, that question, I felt disgusted. I was like, ugh, no, I'm not doing that. So obviously I'm not going to do it if I felt disgust. But if you start to pay attention to the physical, the emotional, then it makes it harder to kind of ignore what you're actually feeling and what your body and in your intuition is teaching you. So what people ask me is, how do they practice this? We are making hundreds of yes or no decisions every single day, but we don't pay attention to them unless they're a big ticket item or unless we feel like they're an intuition driven question. But what you need to do is pay attention to what your body and emotions are doing when you're making every single yes-no decision from the second you wake up in the morning to the second you go to bed. Literally start with like, how did you decide what clothes to wear? What did that feel like? How did you decide what to eat? How did you decide what direction you were driving to work? Pay attention to what you decided on whether or not you were going to pick up the phone when so-and-so was calling or you were going to call them back. What about when you read that message and then you thought, oh, I'll text them back later? Those are all intuitive hits that we're getting all day long, but we don't pay attention to them because they seem insignificant at the time. Doesn't matter what I'm wearing, what I'm eating, what I'm whatever. Well, it does matter what you're wearing if you randomly grabbed a raincoat in the morning and you don't really know why, but then when you were leaving work, it was raining. So it is these things that are going to be very important. So really start to pay attention to your yes and your no outside of just intuitive hits. How did you decide that you wanted to do that or you didn't want to do that? How did you decide yes or no on the dozens of things that you're yet deciding yes or no on every single day? Start paying attention to those. And it's totally fine to be like, yeah, I'll go. Actually, wait, no, I don't want to go. And change your mind. Or to be like, no, I don't think I can make it. You know what? No, I should go. So it's fine to change your mind, but you need to start listening to your body. And your body will start screaming when it needs to. We will have those hell yeses or those hell no feelings. But I find it doesn't scream all too often, and you need to get used to the whispers. You need to start to hear when your body is nudging you yes and when your body is nudging you no. This is how you become more intuitive. This is how you pay attention to what your body is telling you more. This is how the other big ticket items of the yeses and the nos get so much easier when you're paying attention to the tiny things that feel insignificant. So for me personally, my yes comes with a little bit of excitement, a little bit of, ooh, yeah. That's how I know I really want to do something. If I'm like, yeah, that doesn't seem like a yeah to me. That seems like a maybe. My no usually has some type of negative feeling in my belly. It'll feel like, no. It'll feel like almost gross is the way that I can describe it. Like if you put something in front of me that I really don't like seafood, I would do the same reaction as if it was a no from me. It's literally my body rejecting something. So if I say yes and I get that gut feeling, I'm like, oh, that's actually a no. And if I'm not excited in my yes, I know that's actually a no. So now I have multiple ways that I can know what my body is saying, yes or no. So start paying attention. Maybe you will need a little journal for a few days to really notice, but you need to pay attention. You need to be the detective and start to figure out how are you feeling. You can also start a note in your phone and keep little notes in there, but it is your job to figure out what your yes and your no is. No one can tell you for you. I can't tell you what it is. You are the only one that can know for sure what it feels like. And when you master this, all the intuitive hits get so much faster and easier. Well, my lights were flickering in my bathroom. Do you think it's my dad? Do you think it's your dad? No. Well, there's your answer. Another way that you can play with this is using the sway test to support you. But the sway test you can think of as an additional way to double check. You really want to get to know the feeling. So there's a lot of options here of what you can do to tune in, but start tuning in. That's what I wanted to share with you this week. Start saying yes and no with intention, really feeling into your intuition and what your body is telling you, knowing what those feelings mean for you. It will help you big time. These are the small ticket items that feel like, how's this going to help me in my intuition, Steph? How is this going to help me in my mediumship, Steph? How is this going to help me in my Reiki, Steph? When you have a clear yes or no, everything gets much more clear. Everything makes more sense. Everything's faster. All your downloads are coming in faster. You are very clear on what those downloads are and what they mean because your yes and no is clear. It literally ripples into so many things, but we have to start at the basics. The basics is what's yes or no. So that's what I have for you this week. Come back and listen to this episode whenever you need a reminder. And saying no is not selfish. I have so much respect for people that say no. It is a beautiful boundary to set for yourself and for others. I wish I could scream it from the rooftops that saying no is not selfish. It is the most beautiful gift you can give yourself. And people will respect you more when you say yes and no when appropriate. So I've talked about that a lot in other boundary episodes, so I won't get into it in this episode, but saying no is not selfish as a reminder, but find your yes and find your no. Because if you don't have a strong no, that's going to affect your intuition. If in your daily life you can't say no or yes strongly, that's going to affect your intuition. If you have a weak no in your everyday life, you're going to have a weak no in your intuition because you don't say no. And when you do say no, it's like, no, maybe, I don't know. That's how your intuition's going to feel. Not very clear, is it? Nope. That's what I'll have. Come back and listen to this whenever you need a yes or no, little push and reminder. Write it down, pay attention. What is your body telling you, and how are you feeling? If you haven't already, I would love and appreciate a podcast review and rating. It really helps the podcast grow and find new listeners, or share this episode with someone who you think needs to hear yes and no. And if you need a link to anything I talked about in the announcements or to book an appointment with me, I am booking into March and April. So just a reminder to book your appointments ahead. I will leave all those links down below in the show notes. As a reminder, all my bookings are done through my website. I will never DM you. I will never ask for money through Instagram. There's a lot of scammers out there. My only account is at Medium in the Middle. Come follow me over there. We have a lot of fun, and I share a lot of additional free content to help you on your journey, your spiritual growth journey, learning lessons, sharing what I'm going through. So if you do come across any other account, please just block and report them. At Medium in the Middle is my only account. I'll leave that linked down below as well. But until next week, Middlers, when I see you in your ears, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, everybody.